Are you looking for a faster video? Well, today it's a live stream and I know you're probably looking for a really nice and tidy edited down video, but I have ways for you to make it faster. You can click that little gear on the YouTube settings right there on the video and adjust the playback speed, make me sound like a chipmunk, and it'll go a lot faster. You can also look and see if there's timestamps for this project in the description, and if you're on a desktop, you can hover over the time bar at the bottom of the screen and see if it's chunked up into chapters, and then that way you can go directly to the step you're looking for. And lastly, you can also tap on the screen on the right hand side of the video picture or on the left hand side to make the video jump ahead, forward or backward if you're on a mobile device. And you can adjust that amount in your settings so you can have complete control over how much it jumps. So if you are on a desktop, you can use the fast forward or the rewind, and that will make it go faster as well. You can also enable subtitles, and the little CC on the screen will enable closed captioning. That way, if I am a little bit harder to understand with that double playback speed, the subtitles might help you out. All right, well, I know that it's not a nice little edited video, but if you sew with me, we'll get there together and it'll be lots of fun. And now for the live stream. Happy sewing! There's no sound? What do you mean there's no sound? Was there no sound? Shoot. Hi, Ray. Hi, Carrie. Hi, Delvin. Hey, Sue. No worries, no worries. It's on now. So there wasn't during the intro? I'm going to play it for just a second. Did you guys hear the intro? The one where I talk for forever about how to make it faster? Hi, Marin. Yeah, I recognize your name and your comments. Thanks. I'm going to look at the intro just for a second. Are you looking for a faster video? Well, today it looks like it was working. There was happy sewing. That was it. How weird. You heard the intro? Shoot. Well, sorry, guys. Not that you guys don't have it memorized by now. Hi, Joe Ra. How's it going? Hi, Libby. All right, I'm going to warn you guys. I have really bad allergies today. Can you hear? My voice sounds kind of funny. And I keep sneezing, and that really rarely happens to me. So I'm going to try not to talk loud. So you heard the sound just fine. It was stalled between the intro and the stop motion. Yeah, that's normal, Hannah, because I don't click it fast enough sometimes. Sometimes I'm on it, sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I'm looking at it on your side, and that's 6 seconds behind. So, oh, here, I'm going to put this here. Yeah, there's no sound if it's at the very end. All right, so how was your weekend? Did you guys have a good weekend? Ours was really, really, really rainy. And we have a sunny day today, but it's supposed to get rainy again. Like so rainy that those 2 creeks on my property, they became 3 creeks. The dry one by our pond became a creek. And then that one and one of the others almost connected behind our house. Woo! It was nuts, but awesome too. So and the creeks are like down already. So that's always a good sign when the ground can absorb it, you know. So did you guys have a good weekend? I know everyone in California is like, whoa, that was a lot of rain. It always looks in my face cam that I'm slouching. I'm not slouching. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Penny, you got this. You got this, Penny. Hey, Elena, how's it going? I started that little animated series, and it's so cute. I'm really liking it. In fact, I'm only going to do like one at a time so that it makes it last. All right. So I'm making the Fairfield button-up. This is definitely something I've made here before. And I've also made the Archer button-up a few times, like the one I'm wearing. They're both constructed exactly the same, I would say, except the big difference is that the Fairfield has flat felled seam allowances built into the garment. And the Archer does not. You could do it, you could still do it, but the Archer has symmetrical seam allowances everywhere. So I think the other thing I need to make sure I remember to look at is the seam allowances. I'm pretty sure on the collar stand, and neckline of the Fairfield have 1/4 inch, which is the way I prefer it, whereas the Archer has the full 5/8. And if you ever watch my collar stand how-to video, which is just the collar and collar stand, I tell you right off the bat, trim that off. Like it's a world of difference if you're having trouble sewing collars and collar stands. I've struggled with those before. And once I made it always 1/4 inch seam allowance, it makes a world of difference. It's just so much more accurate and maneuverable. And you're not changing the finished sizing or anything when you decrease or increase your seam allowance. It's just as long as you sew on the seam line, right? So my mats. Oh yeah, they're doing so good. I need to post an update picture. It's really nuts under the mulch mats that I made. If you lift it up and look, the exact same grass clippings are under there from when I set it down. Like that's how well it's preserving it. It's great. Right, Penny? Apparently there's a few other series that people are getting recommended. I think that was enough for me too. You finished up the overalls, but they ended up too small. Shoot. Did you guys see that Itch to Stitch just launched a new pattern called their joggeralls? So they're coveralls made in sweatshirt fleece or something stretchy, or you could use like a stretch woven, just something with a little bit of stretch. I'm so tempted, but I really just don't want to keep buying patterns and stuff. So, but I would really love those. So. Yeah, it took me a second to figure out what you're talking about, Ray, and I was like, oh yeah, the mats, exactly, the mulch mats, yeah. Okay, did I get everybody? Sunday was amazing. Yeah, it was incredible. I loved it. It was so exciting outside, the weather and stuff. Exciting in a good way, but I have to say, you know, those burn scars, they really suffered. Like there was lots of road closures around me, but not like really close to me at all. You know, and there were power outages, and our internet stayed on, which we were shocked, but then the next day it went out. We were like, what the heck? That's so weird. Huge landslides all over. So I don't think anybody was hurting them, I'm hoping. The allergies are going to be a real problem today, I can tell. All right, so let's get into it. So like I said, I've made this a few times before. I need to make a few more. I like remaking things, and I hope you guys don't mind that as well, because, you know, I feel like the more you make something, the better you get at it, the more comfortable you get at it, the better it starts fitting, right? Because you start making adjustments you need to make. I got this fabric for free from Minerva as one of their ambassadors, and they just send it to me, and I just need to make something with it and then post about it. So it's a pretty low stress sponsorship, and I don't have to pay for the fabric. And this is the Mammoth Plaid by Robert Kaufman, and here's the information. This is the adventure colorway, and there's lots of colorways. I've used their Mammoth Plaids and their flannels a lot. It's kind of flannelly, which is really nice. This one is item number 1240719. I think it's linked in the description, but I'm not quite sure. So I'll link it for sure. I don't have any like discount codes. Sorry, they don't really offer things like that for me. But it is really helpful for me to have fabric for the stream. So I have made this a few times, and you guys know my woes with, there's a couple of quirky things about it, and that is basically that those two front pieces you have to cut face down, and yeah, anyway. And there was an update this summer on this pattern, but I don't know what the update was. And in the email about the update, it doesn't really say what it was that was updated, but I did email and reach out to them. So hopefully I'll hear back by Saturday or just soon, and I can tell you guys what it was because I'm really curious too. If they didn't change that, the whole like flipping of the fronts though, so it must be something else. Maybe it was something kind of minor. This is one thing I never noticed, or if I did, I completely forgot about it. And they get so many points for this, Thread Theory Designs. There is this cheat sheet that you can print out, and it's in a separate file. And I think that's why I never noticed it, because it says something like quick start, not quick start, something like that. It's like, and I thought, oh, this is a how to print your pattern and what to expect in this like PDF package, right? But it's not, it's a quick reference guide, and I love this. And in fact, I put these in my patterns, like some of my patterns that are a little bit more involved. If you've made one before, or you're a pretty experienced sewist and you don't want to read the book of the instructions, this is the abbreviated list. Like I make mine even kind of more abbreviated than this. Like this is actually has instructions, but it's just like, this is what you do next. So if you don't need to know how to do it, you just need to know what the next step is. This is it. And I'm going to try and follow it because I think it'll be fun. It does look like there is some nice explanations in some of the steps. So maybe if you're like, oh, I need a refresher on how to do that, this would still cover you. So yes, Elena, it mentions a hood pattern. That's how I knew. I was like, what the heck? How come I didn't notice that this said this in there at the time? So anyway. Okay. So let's see. So I'm not really doing anything different today from all the others that I've made, except that we're really focused on matching plaids. And I did a very, very lengthy video last Saturday on cutting it out in the plaid. I'm so turned around that today's Wednesday. Usually we cut on Wednesdays. Hi, Malin, how's it going? So I feel like I'm saying something. Oh, I didn't change my thread color. Dang it. Let's get some thread. I thought about it. Does that count? I think these are gonna, I never get to use these. Let's see. Oh yeah, that's kind of a nice color. All right. Let me just change my thread. I'm pretty sure I have bobbins for this too, so we're not like winding bobbins or anything. So what are you guys working on? Got to go out the green machine away. He's been super loud right now in front of you. Is that your bird you're talking about? All right. Here's one. And come on, let there be two. If there's not, I have an empty one. Okay. What was I sewing last time? And I was sewing the Mercer, right? I think that this needle will be okay. I think I've only sewn the Mercer with it, so that's good. Non-Halloween. Yeah, right? You're so smart though that, you know, it's not like the day of when you need it. It's the Oscar Quaker. The green machine. Is that what you nickname him? Hey Thurl, how's it going? Nice to see you. I forgot to put thread on my machine. I was sitting there like, I'm just going to go live early because I'm done. And my classic thing is if I'm done, I'll start doing something and then I'll be late. All right. You're making a traditional kilt. What? Hi, Diane. How's it going? Buttonholes on your Topstitching shirt. So I'm going to itch to stitch Mila. Which one's the Mila or Mila? I don't even recognize that pattern by her. I love how excited you are about that. Like how much you love that Tropicana shirt. How many costumes are you making, Martina? Where is this garbage can? There it is. I emptied it, so it was in the wrong spot. Yeah, I want to see pictures of the whole shebang too. It's really cute show. Oops, I just clicked my mouse and something popped on the screen. I don't want that on. Oh, Thurl said that. Did I think someone else said that? You drew the line at 4. That seems like a fair number, Martina, honestly. You know? Yeah, definitely, Elena. All right, so I have it kind of zoomed in today because I know you guys are liking that. It seems drifty. Is that too zoomed in? Well, we need to see the whole thing. This looks pretty accurate color-wise on my screen to what it is in real life. Looks better than the pattern table, doesn't it? Yeah, Penny had the idea we should do like a pattern and fabric and stuff exchange. Ooh. I was really tempted by that Love Notions Henley. Was it called Brecken or something? Oh, nice, Thurl. That's awesome. That's a lot of pleating. All right, so I want to decide, did I figure out if there was a right and wrong side? I made it so that this plaid matches, so that will help me figure out which one it is. It's not this one, maybe? Let's see. I think it was that other side. Yep, it's this side. All right. So I'm going to hem my pocket. Actually can't remember the allowance, but there's a notch, so I'm just going to follow the notch, and let's just iron it first too. I need my mouse right here. 31 pleat, Breckenridge Henley. I was going to say Breckenridge, and I was like, am I projecting that name? Yeah, right, Elena? That is a good thing you can reuse it. Here, let's wind my bobbin too, so it's winding while I start sewing. I forgot to do that part. And then we'll iron. All right. So today I'm going to be sewing just part 1, right? So that means I'm probably going to get through the collar and collar stand today. And we'll do the, I think I can get all the way through there. The front plackets, this pocket, the yokes on the back and the shoulders, and then the collar and collar stand. So that's what we're going to do today. And then tomorrow will be the sleeves, the side seams, and we're going to do the tower plackets. I can tell these are not symmetrical right now. So let's work on that a little bit. So when you have plaid stripes that you've matched, like you've cut to match, and maybe you'll notice some of your, cutting isn't very straight, like right here, my line is definitely not very straight. Go for the line. Losing that little tiny bit right there is no big deal. Go for the straight line. I asked the place that did my bias cutting for me. I said, what other services do you have? And one of them was pleating, but they don't get asked to do it very often. All right, so just double check my plaid here. I don't know why, but I really like sewing pocket hems from the right side. I really like, I think it's a good habit because say you're using a nicer thread in your top and you want that to show. It also gives you more control over keeping your stitch parallel to the edge, because then you're not focused on sewing on the edge of the fold. You're focused on sewing parallel to the edge here. So I got my mom's tartan when we were in Scotland. It was pretty fun. looked it up in a book, and then you order it, and then I had it like custom wove, and then they mail it to you, and it's pretty fast. Like it didn't take but like a month or a month and a half. We lost it in the fire, unfortunately, but I still have my piece. So I got a piece for her and a piece for me. So thankfully I have one of them at least, right? Let's get rid of some of these little threads. Why not, right? All right, so same thing like I was saying about staying on your straight edge. So I'm less worried about making the drill holes of where the pocket's supposed to go right now because, you know, I did the work of matching the plaid and I got it, I thought, in that spot. So if I got it off a little bit, it doesn't matter anymore. We're more focused on staying true to the plaid matching, right? So, and if you want, you can, you know, pin the heck out of this so you stay right where you want that plaid to be. I'm going to clip this thread right now. This isn't quite 2 stitches, so I'm going to walk it. This has the angle, doesn't it? Oh yeah, it does. Okay. Okay. Didn't we just do a pocket that has this little angle? See, my plaid's a little bit off right here, so we'll pull it a little bit and get it back on track. The awl is going to be helpful here. I can kind of hoik it over a little bit. This little point is not on that line, so I'm not going to make it do that because it seems logical to do that. All right, so this little juncture is right there. It's kind of unfortunate. Could I get it so that it like kind of makes up that? I think I can. Even if you fold this a little bit asymmetrically, it's not going to show up as much as not matching the plaid. Sad but true. I'm going to tuck my little corner in there since this is a little bit thready. There we go. How's that look? That looks pretty good. Yep, registered ones are kind of pricey. Ooh, 62 inches wide. That is wide. All right, so now we have our placket, and this one has the pleat on this side. So let's iron our plackets. So same thing, we're going to focus on getting it on the stripe. You need to make sure you cut it pretty good on your plaid because you don't want to monkey around too much with getting things off. But you know, let's look at this edge here. I'm just gonna look at this line here and see, is it pretty parallel to the edge? It's pretty parallel. I actually did okay. A little narrower right here than down here, but not much. This is the side that shows to the world, meaning this is the top placket, since this is buttoning in the men's way. So I'm going to look at, let's try and get this nice parallel line here. So most of your plaid matching work, if you're already feeling like, oh, this is going to be really tedious, most of it's going to be right now and at your side seams. And that's really about it. So don't get too overwhelmed yet. Just focus on, you know, your pocket, your center front placket, and your side seams. And then the rest of it, we're just going to sew because, you know, you can't really match your plaid at your neck, or, you know, we cut our collar out a specific way. I got this a little wider down here. I would really like this to be like hotter. Is it just out of water maybe? Oh, it might be. Where's my water? Let me just add some water. We want lots of steam. My main complaint about this iron is it's so hard to see the water on the inside when it's full. I've had this iron. This is probably my, let's see, I've had 1, 2, 3, 4. I've had 1, 2, 3, 4. I think this is my 4th or it's my 5th one. Same exact iron. Never figured out a trick on being able to see the water in there when it fills up. All right, so this one has the funny little thing that you're going to fold right here. You're going to match up these two notches here. Wait, that's not what it is. What is it again? It's, wait, I figured it out the other day. What is it again, you guys? Wait, I fold that like that. Oh, that's right. And then you're going to fold along this one that your placket edge lines up like this. So fold it, and then we're going to sew these two, this line right here. So you don't pinch these two notches together like this, which I keep saying you do, because you won't catch this edge in. So you fold it again, and then you sew a parallel line at this notch right here, the furthest one in, and then that's going to form a little pleat. You're going to have a seam right here. It's going to form a pleat. That's what it is. All right, so same thing. We're going for a nice parallel placket here. Sorry, I can't see the chat. I'll open up my phone over here so I can see it. This is a little easier since we've already done it. What? What's going on? Oh, thanks, Ray. 678. Always keeping us on our toes. That's nice of you. Thanks, Ray. All right. This is the right front. Okay, we're going to fold this one too. Where's that fold line? It's pretty hard to tell. Right along this stripe of my plaid. So I tend to be a puller. One of my bad habits is I pull fabric. I pull really tight on things. I like things to be really firmly sewn, and it bites me in the butt all the time. So I've been trying to break myself of that habit, and one of the places that it can be a really bad habit is right here where I'll pull, like I just have this tendency to pull on things, and then my stripes get off this way on the placket. And you don't want to do that, because what happens is you don't care about matching that plaid, but it's just a good guide so that you're not getting any, you know, torquing. The thing I hate the most. So don't be like me. Is this right? I know that's a fold line, but what is this notch right here? I want to go like this. Fold this edge over and then fold that edge to there. Like, I need to look at the instructions. Hey Nancy, how's it going? It is ever so satisfying. Yeah, it just says fold under and stitch down the right front button band, but I need a little bit more indication of what these notches are. because you only do the pleat on one side. The right front of the shirt will have the button sewn to it. It includes the facing, which is folded under as follows. Fold the fabric with wrong sides together along the first notch. Press. Fold fabric under again at the second notch. Edge stitch from the fold edge. Oh, okay, okay. So you're just folding it so it's 3 layers. Got it. Easy peasy. Get these little threads to line up so I don't feel them in there. But that, what is this? And that's just the center front, right? Okay, okay. That better be the center front. Because remember, we really banked on knowing what the center front was so that our plaids matched. And I know that video was just intensely plaid matchy, but it really was the like non-Cliff's Notes version of matching plaids. Because there's so many things you could be thinking of. And just imagine if I was sewing this in a one-way directional plaid, and there's plaids that can be directional this way and this way. So there's so many things to think about. All right. All right, let's look at, before I stitch it down, let's check. All right, because there's our, well, there's a notch there. What does that mean? So this is going to be like this, right? Okay. Okay, so I don't think I have it quite right. Oh, right, because it's going to go like this. That's what it is. Okay. It's going to go like this. Okay. That makes me feel better. All right. Hey, Angela, how's it going? All right, so this one here has that little pleat in it. My fabric's pretty like loosey-goosey, kind of open weave. You can see it's already kind of fraying. I'm a little concerned that my notch will get a little further away than I want. So I'm going to sew on this side, since this side the stitching line is going to show. It's not going to show on this side because it's going to get tucked in there in that pleat. And then this way I can kind of make sure that I'm not pulling or anything too. There's no need to backstitch. I know someone's going to comment, why don't you backstitch? There's no need to, because it's going to be in the neckline. If you want to, go ahead. I mean, you can just put a couple of tacks. My problem with backstitching when you have such a narrow seam allowance, because I'm pretty sure it's a 1/4 inch, is you don't want your back tack to be kind of showing on the garment, sticking out from that seam. That's why. Go ahead and back tack if you like. All right, so I'm going to look at this line here and keep it nice and lined up on my machine. I'm not looking at my needle. Okay. It's like a 1/4 inch. So this would have been called, and this isn't like a negative thing, but it's called a budget placket in design school. Because there's actually a more formal way to construct a placket with a pleat in it. All right, and so then now it sits like this, right? I think putting another stitch right here along the edge at the exact same distance away is pretty smart. I'm going to do it from the top down. My risk with this is that I don't have the same markings on this little slidey door as I do on this side from the needle. Make sure you pull it apart really good. And you want that to be, you know, the same width. So I'm just going to try and eyeball it. And I'm doing it from the neck down because that way I can prevent also any diagonal lines or any torquing. But it would be easier to go from the bottom up because then I could use my guides on my throat plate. Doing a nice continuous stitch would have been more accurate too, because every time I stop, you have the potential to get off. All right, that's looking pretty good. So now you have this little placket. And then now we're going to sew this one. I mean, I could sew from the bottom up. It's okay. And we're just edge stitching this. No need for interfacing unless you're constructing like a man's or any man's or women's shirt that's going to go under a suit with a tie. Then you might want more of a like crisp and stiff treatment, and you'd probably then be interfacing, you know, all of your cuffs and all of your collars and all of your collar stands and both of your plackets, because you're going for that really crisp, stiff finish. Kind of pulling this a little bit so that I can keep that line lined up. No one's going to see it, but it also just is my indication that the fabric could be slipping. All right, here we go. And so when we have this lined up, if that's the center and that's the center, like this. Oh, Andrea, thank you. I don't know if you're watching right now, but thanks for becoming a patron. It's exciting. Oh, who's asking about the fabric? Oh yeah, it's the Robert Kaufman Mammoth Plaid in the adventure colorway, and then the number of it. Did I tell you guys what the number was? Here's the little thing. It's 1240719. If you buy it from Minerva, or at least if you want to look it up on Minerva, if you just put that number in. Their search is pretty good, but I'm not sure if you put in Mammoth and Adventure if it would pop up or not, but it might. You can also look me up on there, and I have it linked to my project. All right, I wasn't very good about keeping this little thing tucked in here. I'm going to trim it down. This is the little part I turned back in my pocket. Usually I turn down that little corner so that it can't unravel and start hanging out, you know, like poking out of my pocket. Oh, I thought I turned this one down. This one didn't. It's kind of a, I think this plaid, this fabric's going to be a little bit soft to like turn. All right, that looks pretty good. This placket looks really nice. That woven interfacing, man, it just makes things look really nice. All right, so let's do our yokes. And I'm going to do the most controversial thing ever, and that is I don't use the burrito method. Hey, Walter, how's it going? Oh, wow, Walter. Yeah, there is something about this pattern that happens to a lot of us, and I bet it's because of the fronts being turned upside down. Yeah, they dissed it. Oh, I've made this pattern a few times, and I like it. I think it looks really good on my husband. It fits a lot of people, and there's a lot of sizes. All right, where's my notch? Wait a minute. Oh, did I only add my notch? Oh, I probably didn't add my notch because we flipped this pattern piece. That's what it is. So let's put that on there. This is for the pleat. Yeah, so if you haven't heard my whole woes with this pattern, I usually am scrambling to make these as holiday gifts for my brother, my dad, or my husband. And I'm like, gonna be like, all right, let's do, I love kind of big sewing, you know, like, oh, I have all these things to sew. And I love just like sewing things I've sewn before, right? And okay, let's get the hot cocoa and put the Netflix on. And then I'm, you know, realizing I have my sleeves inside out and backwards on one. And then what was the other one that I did? I did them, oh, I put the left on the right and the right on the left. And there's two reasons why that happens on this pattern. The pattern is actually correct. It is correct, but the way it's marked, if you're used to sewing things a certain way, and you're used to people's patterns, she marked them in a way that is a little bit different than the norm by putting the fronts face down, and the sleeves are notched reversed. So usually when you look at a sleeve, you see the front of the sleeve. When you're looking at it, front is on your right and the back is on your left, and it's the reverse on this. That's not wrong. It's just different. And so if you're used to like pulling your sleeve a certain way, like off your pile and sewing it in, or maybe your fabric was right sides together, whatever it is. All right, so I cut one yoke on the bias and one on the straight. I just want to make sure I pleated this correctly. So I'm just going to check. Okay, yeah, so I find like this is kind of skimpy, you know, but it is kind of nice that you have a wider pleat. I didn't really pleat it symmetrically, so I'm going to kind of fiddle with this side right here. And pleat, see, because I folded it on this little line here. I'm also going to stitch across it twice to keep these folds hanging down straight like this. These things can get a little bit off sometimes. All right, let's see. It's this one here, right? Yeah. There. I need to check my seam allowances too. I think they're 1/2 inch, right? Oh, it worked out in the end. Oh, I'm glad that their shirt worked out in the end. Yeah, and if they did flat felled seams, it's just a lot to remove. And funnily, I think the other added struggle is not this shirt's fault, and it's that most people, most of us sew this shirt in fabrics that don't have an identifiable right and wrong side. So then you have the added struggle of having, like, you could have 2 left sleeves by accident anyway, even if you just do it accidentally like that. So, oh, a little loop over the pleat. That would be nice. Should we do that? We could do that. I kind of want to, like, you know, press this so that it stays. That doesn't seem like something my husband would like, but maybe I could put it in the neck. He's not into some of those kind of details. And I'm like all about those kinds of details. All right. Let's check out the seam allowance. Let's see, maybe it's just right here. All right, so we did number 1. This is that little quick reference guide. I want to check it out. We did number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 3/8 inch seam allowance. All right, so 6 through 10. Oh, you do the sleeves next. I'm going to do the collar cross. Okay, so 6 through 10 are this placket, or I mean yoke. All right, so like I said, don't do the burrito method. Nothing wrong with it at all. I was sewing a lot of button-down shirts. It was like the thing I really wanted to learn how to do. I was young, sewing a lot, and it was the shirt I really wanted to. You have to understand like what age I was when I was learning to sew and what was like in fashion and stuff. And American sportswear was really becoming a big deal at the time. And so I really wanted like nice button-down shirts that I made. And so I wanted to get good at it. And the thing I was just failing at was the collar stand. But the thing that I really hated was sewing the yoke, and how what would happen is, see, back then they didn't have the burrito method. No one was talking about stuff like that. There was no internet either, by the way. Not that we used. And I really hated when, wait a minute. Did I just, oh yeah, I did that right. Okay. Just making sure. I'm going to put a couple pins in here. We don't need to be all mavericky. So what I didn't like was when I would do the second part of the yoke, which is attaching the shoulders, you would do the, one side, meaning like the outside, and then you would do the inside by folding them under and top stitching it down like a cuff or something. And I hated it because then people would be like, all the like old school sewists were like, oh, hand sew that. You want it to be perfect. And I have had the, Speedy Gonzalez sewing gene since the beginning, and I was not about that hand sewing life, right? I had also gone to fashion school, and I was just like, well, you wouldn't do this on the production floor, so there must be a way, right? So that's when I was like, I'm going to figure out how to not have to hand sew my yoke with it be perfect every time. So this is how I figured it out. I just didn't get famous for it like the burrito method. So the first thing I do, it doesn't matter where you start. You can start at the shoulders or the bottom. I start at the bottom because I like to get the biggest part out of the way. So you just sew them, with your inside yoke on the inside, right? And your outside yoke on the outside, right? Nothing different there, right? Let's see if my pleat is still hanging straight down. It's not really. I really want this to hang straight down. So I'm gonna straighten this right here a little bit more. Okay, that's better. All right. All right, and then where's my fronts? So the only trick with this, you gotta make sure that you're putting right sides to right sides. Exactly, Nancy. Back in my day, we used to sew backwards and blindfolded. All right, so this is my outer shirt. This is the shirt the world's gonna see. This is the inside of my shirt, all right? Hey, Terry, absolutely. All right, and so put this right sides together, right? Just pick up one of your yokes, right? Line it up. Either you can do it at the neck or the shoulder. I just do it at the shoulder because it just always happens that way. And then you're gonna take this one here, and you're just gonna put it right sides together. Boop, like that, right? I have a video for this. It's not a very popular video because people aren't searching for this. Just worry about the 1 inch you can get lined up at a time, all right? Now remember, one of my yokes is on the bias, so it's gonna be a little finicky. I don't know how to do the burrito method, so I can't tell you if this is any, different or whatever, but all right, so then I'd get my machine on there, right? Get my machine on there, and now my machine is holding it. My needle is down, and then I'm gonna line up the other end, and I'm just gonna sew it. Let the machine help you, and then it's done. There you go. Boop. So then there's our front, and then our back. And I think that, yeah, this is the outside right here. So there we go. And then we're gonna do the same on the other side so you can see it one more time. I'll do it from the neck this time. The neck is, I feel like, a little bit trickier only because you have less room. Because here we are, right? This is the outer of my shirt. See, here's the right side of this. This is the right front, and here's the placket. It's onto the inside, right? Put this right sides together, line it up at the neck, and then turn it around, right sides together. See, it's a little trickier going to the neck because look at how much it has to like fold around it. So maybe you should do it from the shoulder edge. Maybe that's what I usually do and I just don't realize it. So same thing, flip it right sides together. Now, when you're doing this right here, flip it right sides together and hold it along this edge for like a good inch. You don't want to accidentally go that direction. All right. Or, you know, put a like dot of ink on that edge so you know which is the shoulder seam and which is the neck. Some necks are going to be less curved. It's easy to get lost in the sauce if you're kind of worried about something else. If you're matching your plaids, you know, you're going to focus on that. All right, so now this one's always crumpled way up. But remember, it's, you know, just pull it out first and then layer it like a sandwich, right? You got this one, this one. My machine's holding it all in place. So a little bit, then finish by pulling up these edges. Now, if anyone's sewn the burrito method, like, do you guys know how that compares? It's more of a taco method. I like burritos more than tacos, though, so. All right, I'm gonna iron these. So what makes that faster and easier? So I thought the burrito method was kind of similar, though. Get our placket starting to behave there. We're going to top stitch these. You don't have to, but it does look nice, and we love top stitching. We love top stitching. Still not thrilled with this little pleat kind of dropping away a little bit there. Plaid looks, or I mean not plaid, the bias looks nice. I like it. Look at that. Oh my gosh. Imagine both shoulders were like that. They're not. See? Maybe I shouldn't have shown you guys that. That's going to trigger a few of you. All right, do it from the inside too so that you make sure you don't have any weird little like pleats going like this. I like it when the pleat goes all the way to the center personally. It's a little easier to keep straight and hanging down straight. Oh, I should put I'm gonna put my chat on over here. Whoops. Oh my gosh, why is this so? Okay, there we go. Is it? Yeah, I figured it was pretty similar. Oh, I see. Sandwich method and promote it. Yeah, I've seen the pictures where it's all rolled up in there. That means it's going to get really wrinkly too. But I say do whatever works for you. That works for me because it's one of those things where, you know how like you have that moment, like I said in my latest video, where you're like, that's it, I'm not taking no for an answer. I'm figuring this out, and it's like that one thing that just pushes you over the edge, and that was my thing. So I sat there figuring it out, and I was like, why can't I just sew this right sides together? Like, would that work? And I did do it wrong a few times where I would accidentally start going down the neck and be like, oh, this is not, something's wrong here. But then I got just good at positioning. Depending on what you're going for, you know, top stitch this if you want. You can double top stitch it. You can decoratively top stitch it. I think also like holding it, like making sure it's all kind of straight and flat, especially with this bias yoke. Now I only did the bias yoke on the outside. If you're doing a really close fitting shirt and maybe you would like a little bit more give, you could put the both yokes on the bias. That's fine. It's just a little fiddly and you might have some issues getting your collar and collar stand to match. So just remember that, you know, the bias can kind of grow. Oh my gosh. Let's just look at this side right here. Like, look at that. What the heck? What kind of luck is that? Like it's even on almost the spacing of the repeat. I wish I could claim credit for that, but I can't. Yeah, right, Elena? Like if that's the way you know, go for it. Didn't work on this side, even though I do have that. But remember, this is a one-way, this is a two-way plaid, but it's not symmetrical going left and right and up and down. Like you can't rotate them, because this is a rectangle right here. So it's best not to think about it too much. All right, I'm gonna stay stitch my neckline since this fabric is a little bit frayy. Let's stabilize it a little bit. When I do stuff like this, like a stay stitch, I kind of push the fabric close so it's really relaxed and I'm not pulling on it and making it bigger, especially since I have this, you know, bias yoke. All right, so I'm going to look at my matching at the neck right here now. Let's see. I want to make sure that where this collar and collar stand is going to meet right here, that the lines are matching. You know what I mean? Because like say you used your neckline as a stripe matching point, you got to make sure those stripes are matching, because if you use on this side too and then it wasn't quite there, it can be, if you use the same stripe, in other words, and that stripe was down a little bit, it might get off. So yeah, I'll just have to photograph it from that side, right, Nancy, and say I've meant to do that. All right, so let's double check. The seam allowance is 1/4 inch on these. All right, so now I'm on number, okay, so she has you do the sleeve plackets. And that goes all the way down. Okay, so I just did number 24. So in other words, 11 through 23 is your sleeve and sleeve placket, and we'll do that on Saturday. Yep, 1/4 inch seams. Oh, that makes me so happy. All right. Let's get all our collars out here. We're going to assemble them together first. So we have our, let's see, I think this is our top collar. No, that's the under collar. You have your collar stands. You don't need your cups. And your top collar. So it's pretty hard to tell the difference between your top and your under collar. I just want to make sure my notches are on the collar stands. I only interface the outer collar stand. You can interface both, it's fine. It'll behave better. Let's see, did we get... So for the collar stand, the notches I like to have are on the bottom side here, which is this side right here. This is we'll look at it the correct way. So this is the way it'll be worn on the body. This is the neck right here, and this is the edge that goes to the collar pieces. So for this up here, I like a center notch, and I like a notch right here where the collar starts and stops. Not every pattern company adds that, but this one does, which is really nice. And that is this notch and this notch and a center. And on the bottom, I like a shoulder notch or yoke seam, depending on what they did, and then the center back. So she has all the exact notches I find the most helpful. So let's fold this in half and we'll do our center notch. And then on the top here, we'll make sure we have our collar start stop. I know I did notch it on one, but I don't see it. So I'm gonna, I can already tell one collar stands like a little bit bigger because it didn't get interfaced. Remember, you only have a 1/4 inch seam allowance, so be careful. I really wish companies added this notch right here, because when you're starting off sewing, you're starting here and you need to know where to put the collar. You can go from the center out. I like doing that. I find it to be, makes your collar more symmetrical. So. All right, and so let's notch the bottom. I didn't do that at the same time, which is silly. The Gilbert's cute. The Gilbert does I think the Gilbert doesn't have a collar stand, right? So it's even easier. Is the M6044, is that a women's version? Yeah, I haven't tried I'd like to try the Wardrobe by Me men's shirt pattern. I haven't tried that one. Has anyone tried that one? And how does it fit? Because I would like to sew that one. All right, and then for this right here, I only find, like, I don't really actually find notches as useful on these two pieces. Really what it would be usually is notches to differentiate from the top and under collar, so you don't need your pattern pieces at all. That's ideal, right? And usually the under collar would have a double notch on it, and then the top collar would have a single notch, and then you would just match the single notch to the double notch. You don't really need this outer collar edge there. I'm not sure why. And then if you got rid of it, it wouldn't be confusing which edge goes to the collar stand. That's just my feeling. I really like being able to put my collar pieces away, or my pattern pieces away. I'm not sure why there's these notches either. Oops, I was going to do the center like this. This is the under collar. That's interesting that that goes to the collar stand. I've never noticed that. Look at that. So there is notches right here, but there's no notch for it to go to here. So this is not, I wouldn't even notch this right here. So there's no, it doesn't go to anything. It does help you maybe determine that that's your under collar. So that's helpful. Hi, Isha, how's it going? All right, so we're gonna sew our collar together around the perimeter. And we're just gonna go around these 3 sides here. Your under collar is slightly smaller, so you may have to pull it to match the edges. In other words, it's not gonna lay like flat and then line up. And that's okay, that's what you want. You want that under collar to be a little smaller, that way it kind of pulls that outer collar to the underside, and then you don't see your seam. You don't see the under collar kind of sneaking out. Sometimes if I'm running low on fabric, or I have a pretty thick fabric for my collar, I'll use a completely different fabric for the under collar, something that just matches. So, you know, like maybe the dominant color in a solid, so that it doesn't really catch your eye or anything, unless you want it to. And then that way it kind of reduces the bulk of the collar. The bulkier it is, the harder it is to make it sew to the collar stand accurately. You just got to be aware that adding bulk adds to the measurement. So, all right, so I'm gonna trim my corners here, and then I'm also gonna iron it. So one thing to think about right now too is, are your collars the same on either end? So line up the seam. It doesn't matter if you trimmed it the same. Line up, you know, this seam here with this seam here, and make sure that they're the same width across. And so look at that. This is like a hair bigger. We'll trim it off. That way we know, right? Why not? They're both men's. Oh, okay. I don't need this pattern piece either. All right, so I'm gonna iron this first, and then I'm gonna top stitch it. So you can sew or stitch your collar so that this, you know, top stitch it so that the stitching shows on the outside, or maybe you just want like a really clean looking collar with no stitching showing, and you can do that too with the understitch. I'm trying to think how mine is on mine that I'm wearing today. Let's see what it looks like. Yeah, so, oh, I edge stitched it. Okay. All right, so having trouble keeping that. We'll do this. Just pressing the seam one direction. It's a little easier to do it from the wrong side. This is my under collar, and I can tell because I put a notch on either side of the center. You could always write on the inside of your facing if your fabric won't show it through. All right, let me get my awl. And here's usually where I fail, getting my point. I know all the tricks to getting a nice point. I'm stubborn. I pinch really hard with my thumb, and that helps prevent me pulling too much out, like threads, you know, like just pulling out the threads. You've seen me do that though. Oh, see, that was about to do it. Okay, there we go. Let's poke that back in a little bit. Shape it a little bit. Top stitching is going to also make it firm. All right, so now see how my collar is kind of staying open. That's okay. Which one's my under collar? This is my under collar. So we're going to now pull that. Here, let's actually do it on this side. This is the underside. So we can kind of see a little bit of the right side kind of peeking under right here. That's what we want. So I kind of push the under collar like this to the inside. It kind of helps. Okay. And so then on this side, you don't see the under collar at all. Let's try and get this raw edge to line up. Theoretically, you should be able to line up these raw edges and your under collar is not going to pop out. Depends. If your fabric is really, really thick and you line up these raw edges, you might start seeing the under collar because it's so thick. I say push it a little bit so that that seam is showing only on the under collar side, and then just trim off that tiny bit. All right. Oh yeah, Malin? Yeah, Marin, I don't blame you. Bulky fabric can be kind of a pain. Oh, I bet, Martina. I didn't think about that. Yeah, because you have to put the whole garment in there. Oh yeah, I couldn't do that. That's just too fussy for me. I'm too impatient. This is the hilarious thing. I know people are like, gosh darn it, your sew-alongs and streams are so long. But the thing is, I try and figure out the fastest way possible because I'm impatient too. Oh, Libby, don't do it. There's a bird right out the window. All right, dude, you can stop that now. It's kind of freaky. Yeah, get away. All right, so I'm gonna edge stitch and I'm doing this from the right side. Let's look at my plaid too. How are we doing? That's not bad. So this is what my collar is gonna look like. Oh my goodness. I didn't even know that that did that. That looks cool. What do we think of that? Does that look weird? He won't notice, right? It looks okay. I'm just thinking like, it looks like a border print. I didn't plan it to be that way. Looks cute, but is he going for cute? I don't know. All right, I'm just gonna edge stitch it. You wanna do this before you attach this to the collar stand. I feel like I'm a little too close to the edge right now. Okay. But I was thinking also of doing 2 rows of stitching. I think that would look kind of nice. So I'm going to do a second row. You can't even see the first one. It matches part of this the colors in here really good. And in other parts you can see it. I kind of like the double stitching. Can you even see that though? Have it kind of overexposed. Do you really, Robert? That's awesome. You've made 20. How do you wear that many? Is he going for cute? He is now. I think he's cute. What do we think about adding this double? I think I'm going to add this double line of stitching on the yoke too. I'm going to go for a slightly more Western looking look. So. I like this because it stitches down on all of the seam allowance, but I will say the seam allowance is not very wide, and so I'm right on the edge of the seam allowance inside the yoke, and it wants to push my machine off the edge, so honestly could have stitched that first pass a little nicer. The collar looks pretty good. The yoke looks alright. You know, like, it's okay. Alright. But I like the double stitching. Look at that plaid matching. Oh man. Don't look at this side. Alright. Collar stand. So now we're going to attach this collar to the collar stand. There's a few ways to do this. So there is this way, and I honestly haven't spent time getting really good at it. But there is this one way, right? That's so true, Robert. You get good at it. You sew every day. I thought about doing a challenge, like a sew for 10 minutes every day challenge. And I'm like, I need to come up with 30 challenges for 10 minutes though. And I already have so many things going on. But anyway, so there's this one way where you can attach a collar. There's a few different ways to do it. So the way you all know I like to do it is I'm going to put the collar and collar stand right on. I'm going to assemble this as a unit, right? And then I sew it from the inside of the shirt and then I finish on the outside, right? That's my preferred way of doing it. So there's this other way of doing it where you only sew one of your collar stands to the collar. So those of you who are kind of nerding out on this kind of stuff, you might really like trying this. And some folks that just hate doing it the way I do it or the other way most people do, this might be your method. Like, it's just, you got to figure out the one that works for you. And so then you attach your collar stand to, I have to remember how to do this. You attach, like for me, what would I do? I would do this one first. I would attach this to the inside of my garment, right? And then I would attach the, I would attach this one to here, only right here, like maybe to here and here. You have to, it's kind of tricky. You sew this right sides together. And then you turn that inside out, and then you finish your collar edge. Your last edge is under the fold of the collar. Did I explain that very well, or what? Or what? I kind of want to try it on this one, but I haven't tried it in so long. So does that make sense? So you'd have this, your last step would be, and it's ideal if you do it from the right side, right? You would sew this as your last step from here to here, right there, and then your collar would fold over that edge. And then basically, and the other thing is, I actually got kind of good at it where I would sew this like this in a sandwich, right? You sew this right sides together. Hey Bartek, welcome. Yeah, so you sew this in a sandwich right sides together, right? You totally take out the whole quotient of this edge coming out nice by sewing it either the way I do or the way most people do, right? And then the tricky part on this one is that you have to sew your shirt inside your collar stand like this, kind of like the burrito method thing, right? Or the shoulder seams I just did, for like this much. Let's do it. Fine, let's do it. I have to remember, I haven't done this for a really long time though, so. All right, so this is my inside collar stand. I'm gonna get rid of this little stay stitching thread because this kind of thing can really plague you with issues later on. All right, so we're gonna hang this off the seam allowance. Remember, this is 1/4 inch seams. If you want a regular old collar stand tutorial, I have a video for this. It's really good. I will say it's really good. I get tons of views on it, and people are like, love it. So if this is not the way you want to do it, look at that video. It is a little different than how most of the world does it because it ensures success without the strain of sewing it, and there's no hand sewing. Hey Martina, how's it going? You been busy? Yeah, new stuff. All right, yeah, plus you know, you might get a little sewing drama, and I know how much you guys like that. All right. I think if I were to do this also, in fact, let's interface this piece. I think that I should be kind to my future self, and we're going to interface this piece. This fabric is too, it's not loose woven, but it's not tight woven, you know? Let me get some, where's my, oh, here it is. I couldn't see it. All right. Yeah, I don't know why I'd never do it this way. Right, Chaz, and welcome. All right. Plus, this is, our sew along's going so fast today. It always feels weird to cut right here. this on. The only thing about adding the extra layer of interfacing is it does add some bulk. You got to pick your battles, right? What are you in the mood for today? I've been wanting to try this for a while. I am the same as most people though. You know, like I get into, I don't want to say a rut, but you know, like I like doing it the way that I know best and is easiest for me too. Just looking at chat, making sure I'm not missing anything. How are you doing, Walter? All right. All right, so we're going to line up this really long straight edge. It's the edge without the curve. We're going to line it up to the neckline here. And you want this edge right here to line up at the seam line. So let's talk about where that really is, because it's really easy to mistake where it's at, right? So we know where it's at on the neckline here. Like that's pretty easy to figure out, right? It's kind of right on that stitch line. So my stay stitch line is almost, it's at the limit of the seam allowance, which is never a good thing, right? Because you want to enclose it. So there's that, right? And there's no seam allowance on this edge, just here. So on this one, I'm going to try to allow for the width of my chalk marker here. Okay, so, because remember, it's at an angle there. Oh my God, I'm making it worse, so I'll just stop. Let's see here. And draw it on there if that helps you. Right? I mean, why not? No wonder you got the toothy grin then, Walter. So let's see. I think what I'm going to do is put the one that I marked on this side here, so I can see where that's lining up, right? So we want this fold edge right here. Or my awl. I can't sit without my awl. Where? Okay, here we go. So we want this fold edge right here to line up with that seam allowance right there, right? I'm going to back it off a tiny bit because of the width of this placket. Because remember, it has to like wrap around. So, you know, maybe you look at it like this little intersection right there is actually lining up once it's wrapped, okay? Okay. I pinned that whole quilt using my pins from my Stream pin cushion here. And then I brought home the other pin cushion with all the pins on it. So all my pins now are at my house except for this little ragtag bunch of pins. And then we'll do the same on this side. All right, so, because see, you don't want to do this, line it up like this, lining up. Let's get rid of these edges right here. We don't follow those. You don't want to line it up, these raw edges like this, without considering where this is hitting this line here, right? So let's look at it like that. Does that give us enough room? And then you can kind of pivot it over so that your raw edges right here line up. What the heck? Why is that so far off? What the heck? Wait. I've never had a problem matching this. This is my back. Let's make a notch where my back neck is. Now I'm nervous. Now I'm nervous. I'm not going to panic yet. Can I do it? What the heck? Why is that so off? Hello? This seam goes here? Not in my dreams. What the heck? That is that line. Has my neckline grown that much? Did I not take, I know I took enough with the placket. The plaids match. Did the fusible shrink it? I mean, I did both. No. If anything, it grew. Well, can I do it? Can I do it? Sometimes it's very misleading. I can do it. Yeah, that's a, I was going to say, I have this stay stitch and I'm kind of tempted to pull on it a little bit. But honestly, I thought this section would be the hard section to match. And look at that, that's perfect. All right. I think it's fine. I'm going to shift this a tiny bit. I'm going to move that yoke seam to this side right here is giving me heart palpitations a little bit. Let's see, look at that. Gulp. Well, we were going to have this drama either way, no matter which way I sewed it. What the heck? Have I struggled with this before? Has anyone watched my other Fairfields? You guys love the sewing and drama. There wasn't a notch on the neckline, right, of the shirt? Because there's a chance that that notch doesn't go to that seam. There's a chance that I'm hoping for, at least. Okay, I'm going to get rid of these little threads right here. All right, well. So let's put this one on. But if you were getting really fast at these and you knew your collar matched and you didn't have lots of little trouble, you're flat felling the shoulder seams? Oh, you don't have a yoke on yours? That's nice. That's a nice finish. You could do these right sides together like this. Like that's the whole intent with this, right? Is that you get a perfect collar stand. Yeah, shoot, I'll just do it this way. We're going to do it the way it's supposed to be, like this. Where's this center? All right, here's the center. Right there. Non-negotiable. I got to at least make that work to there. Boy. No, don't get anxiety. It'll all be okay. What's the worst case scenario? I just cut a different collar stand and collar and sew those over again. But really I should check the pattern and make sure maybe my fabric is just kind of getting a little bigger. This side seems bigger. Look at that. This side's a little nerve-wracking. Like maybe that placket could have been bigger. Maybe it could have been bigger. Oh no. Where's that stay stitch thread? Let's pull that a little bit. Tighten it up a little bit. oof, doesn't really want to pull through the placket. All right, so we're gonna pull this. You don't want to pull this too much. You shouldn't have to do this. But look at that. There, it's nice and flat now. Except for right there, that'll be easier. I'm gonna do it the Robert method. It works. It's not ideal though. It's gotta be the fabric. I can't get past this shoulder seam here. All right, so I'll just make that one work. All right. Line up the raw edges and leave room for that stand. All right. It's almost like I think sometimes one of you comes into my studio and is like, I'm gonna swap out the collar stands. You know, like, imagine if I had like a sewing assistant that was a troll. All for the drama. Oh my gosh. You guys be bribing them. All right. Let's just try. I'm better with the sewing machine. Okay, can you guys see okay? Yeah. I mean, I want you guys to have a... I really wish this one didn't automatically... the arm needs to be like in front of my face. It's going to have to be at an angle a little bit. Sorry, guys. Malin's like, first class flight from Sweden to mess around. All right, take that off. I want to say, yeah, I think going through the edge is okay. I was just about to say maybe you start on that seam line, but I can't remember how to do it this way, so we'll just try it. We'll see what the pitfalls are together. All right, and here's my... So I'm just looking at each layer and kind of laying it on there and making sure it's flat. This really keeps you honest about your seam allowance, because if you did anything smaller or bigger, you're going to just have more trouble getting it to match. So just stay on the seam line. There's too many pins. Oh, that's right. These pins aren't magnetic. Yeah. All right. So when you have all these things you're trying to ease in, it's best to rotate it so that they're perpendicular to the seam. It'll be a little easier. Keep those raw edges lined up. I think that's falling away a tiny bit right there. Oh, I wanted to put my label in. Shoot. Do I dare unpin it? This is the, right, like this, right? I'm thinking about that correctly, right? Let's see. All right, this is the harder side. Look at how far away that is. Let's try and get some of it up here to the shoulder. We're squishing these fibers together. It's like we're setting in a sleeve, but in the collar. I just printed this pattern out this week again, so I'm gonna check it out and see if ooh, okay, yeah, right, yeah. I'm gonna check it. I'll check the pattern and make sure it wasn't something on it. But I've made this a few times, so. Oh, I could put the label on the side seam. That's a good idea, Nancy. It can be, they're kind of stout though, you know, like they'd be kind of itchy. So let's place this in a non-negotiable spot. I have all this right here. Let's lay this on here. Can I do it? I don't know. This is apparently going to be the hardest part of this style of collar sewing. Hopefully it won't be for you if you try it. Can I do it? I think I can. All right, made it. Except my collar stand looks a lot shorter now for some reason. Let's see. No tucks. All right, phew. I have that one stay stitching seam edge right there, or stay stitching showing, blah, blah. Anyway, all right, so that's the first step. You might age during it if you have to do it that way. And then let's see, then you're gonna sew your collar to the collar stand. And this is when you can do this all in one step. So make sure that you have your, so this is the inside of my, let's get oriented. This is the inside of my shirt, right? There's the label. So if this were the outside, like this is the outside, right? Your collar, this is my under collar. It sits like this, all right? So don't lose sight of what's your under collar and your top collar in relation to how it's going to be worn on the garment. So, you know, if it helps, put it like it's going to be worn. So this is how it's going to be worn, right? So we're going to flip it over like this, right? And we can just pin this right now so that we don't forget. And now we can flip it over and we're going to look at it. And so now you're going to look at this as if you're like, kind of like you just sewed the yoke, right? You want to sew this as right sides together as possible for as long as possible. And I suggest getting onto the collar if you can. And really bulky fabrics are going to be a problem. So you can twist it up like this. And then, wait, see the stitching here? Let's get that out of there. You don't want that showing. This is just a little like tails of my bobbin and my top thread. They get sucked in sometimes when I do the top stitching because I don't hold the thread when I start sewing. Holding the thread prevents that. You know what, Terry, I actually read a bunch of studies about that, and apparently toweling is the best. But yeah, I just use batting a few layers of things. So this is when my really short little pins are going to be kind of handy. So I'm lining up the collar to the notch on the curve of the collar stand right there. And then what you can do too, we'll put this pin parallel to the edge. You can fold back your collar stand like this and kind of pinch it. And then you might be able to sew for further if you do this. Right? Because you're trying to sew this for as long as possible right sides together right here. Fiddly. It does look like a hat, doesn't it? I really wish I could get this to stay straight though. It just keeps tilting over. Yeah, that doesn't help it. It's really annoying. All right, so the tricky part about this is, you see this is where my placket edge right there meets. So you need to sew along this, you know, parallel to this raw edge, and like this side was a little bit off right here. So we're just gonna trim that down, make it easier on ourselves. That's not usually what you would do. And then you're gonna sew, and you don't wanna nick your placket, right? You don't wanna get this edge caught in that seam. I'm just trying to tell you what the pitfalls are. Yeah, a lot of people like this way, Martina, and it actually, if you get good at it, it kind of takes away some of the other aspects that are kind of a pain. All right, so I kind of scored it with my fingernail to see where that edge was. All right, and so now we're coming around here, pushing all this in here. It's really easy if you don't interface one of your collar stands to get these a little bit off. One will get a little stretched out. So you don't want that to happen. You could attach the collar stand. I should have done that. I don't know why I didn't do that. I kind of just jumped into it just now because I was holding so much. Why didn't I do that? Let's attach the collar stand. Sorry, guys. I'm out of practice. Attach this collar stand to the stand itself. Just do it just inside the 1/4 inch seam line. So you're going to match up your centers and your notch at the curve there of the collar stand. Right here, right? So you're going to go to there, right? This collar stand does feel like it shrank. Didn't look like it did. And it's pre-washed. So... But yeah, ironing interfacing can sometimes really shrink things. It didn't look like it when we held it up to the pattern piece though. All right, so now it would have been a little easier to be able to keep sewing this edge, right? So let's try and do a little bit more. Because this is where the magic is. If you can kind of sew a little bit further in, then the collar is going to fold over and hide that edge. My fingers are really strong. I'm just going to tell you that. All right, so we got a little bit, right? So now we have this little assembly that our shirt is really shoved in. Okay, so then we're going to do the same on this side. I'm just trying to figure out how I want to hold this right now. I think I want to hold it like this. Okay. So you got to put these right sides together. So let's twist our shirt again. And remember, don't want to catch your placket in there. But look at my seam allowance is pretty skint on this side, right? While it's a little bit nerve-wracking to not catch your placket, I do like this method for the fact that kind of getting the like that little juncture good on the other method is a little dicey sometimes, you know? All right, so we have the curve on this collar stand to match up to that collar edge. That's our goal right now. You can pin this if you want. Like you'll just find that I find that I have a little more control if I don't pin, and that's just me. I like holding the layers apart. I can't find my notch on this collar stand. The heck, where is it? It's like glued shut. with the interfacing. I don't want to catch any of my shirt in that seam. There's got to be an easier way to do this too. I did not set, I should have pinned that away. Pinning it away was really useful. Should have taken my own advice. I'm really worried I'm catching the shirt right now. That's why I keep stopping. So let's get a little bit further. Look, I was so worried about it. I'm going to stick my awl in there and see. I was so worried about it that I actually stitched a stitch further down. Let's get rid of this stitch right here. Okay, I don't think anything's caught in there at all. Oof, I could have done better there. What the heck? Look at that one right there. Oh, that's the one. Okay. I think I just smoothed it out. I can't really feel anything in there. All right, so now you're going to trim this corner. I would trim this down and maybe clip it so that the little edges can overlap, you know, like this. Trim into it or clip into it. Same here. You still need to clip your whole neckline there. We're doing this kind of out of order. This side went so much better because I trimmed it down. Thanks for subscribing, Kim. Right, Chaz? Yep. If you got good at this, though, this would be a pretty fast way to do it. I've done the other one a little bit more, so it's my preferred way. But now I kind of want to, you know, practice this one. Oh yeah, stitch wishery. I forgot about that. All right, let's clip our neckline for a bit first. Should have done this before I did the last seams as well. I get so excited to try something that then I do it all out of order. Do you guys ever do that? Because you're just like, ooh, 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 I want to try and see what happens. Well, maybe I should set myself up better. It's a little thick. I'm pretty eager to turn it though and see how it looks. All right. So then we turn this right side out. Do I feel like I need to trim that more? A little bit. I want to trim this more because I don't want to have to trim it back the other way. This is where sometimes, I'm not going to say that. It's pretty looking, a little ratty. Not much there. I mean, I'm sewing the collar in a way I haven't done in a really long time because I was just trying to give options and I was like, oh, okay, I'll try it. So turn this right side out. And so now you're going to have your collar stand here. the way the plaid is colored right here, it kind of makes it look like that's not the point. So then now you have this whole edge finish, which is really handy, you know? All right, let's look at this side and see how this one did. Ooh, this one feels a little stiffer. Was this the side that I gathered? I didn't really keep track of, that was the right front. And this is the left front, so it wasn't this one. Okay, let's get rid of those. See, those little threads, those ones that you use to like use for stay stitching, if you don't trim them, I almost think like when you put a stay stitch on, you should start at the raw edge. Like say this is the neckline right here. You should start at the raw edge like this and then swoop down so that those little tails are towards the raw edge. I love that idea. I'm sure I'll forget about doing that next time, but that way you don't have these little raw edges like this at a juncture where they're gonna sneak out the little, you know, the little like the edges of your thread, the top and the bobbin. All right, so look at that. That looks nice and clean. What is that right there? Oh, it's a little fabric flaw maybe. All right, and so then, so now you're like, oh my gosh, I've got this whole raw edge on the right side of my shirt, but here's the deal. We just need to turn this under and top stitch it down, and the collar folds over and covers it all up. That's the whole beauty of this. We're gonna go to the iron. Yeah, so you kind of remove the element of this point here, which is really nice. And you remove the whole element of trying to get a nice clean finish here at the neck or right there. I'm sure I just made this look like more of a struggle than it really needs to be because I had to ease my neck in, and I haven't done this in probably 20 years, to be honest. But hey, you know, if I can figure that out in that amount of time with those constraints, you can kind of see the benefits of it. So let's iron this really well. And you could hand sew this if you like. I mean, I'm not against hand sewing. I'm just against me hand sewing. That's the poster I need to make. Come on, wake up. I feel like this neck looks a little bit like I eased it in. You know? Let's hope we can kind of get that to play nice. What thread brand? You know, I am probably not the best to ask that because I'm still using so many cones of thread that I've bought from factories or we ordered. But I like Mettler and Gutermann for threads. And people are really into the, like, now there's like thread ambassadors and all that, you know, like Aurifil. Those are great threads. All right, so match up, you want to match up your centers to your center. Let's see, can we find our center? That's our center right there. Did I make my plaids match on this? I didn't think I did. Shoot. Should I have? Did I? It feels like I got it a little bit off. Oh, I did. Look at that. I don't remember doing that. Let me get some pins. Well, here, I'll just iron it and then we can sit at the machine and do it. You gonna try this, Martina? Cool. Do you have some shirts you're sewing? I'm just gonna turn this edge under. Kind of pre-iron it a little bit. Why not, right? I wonder what this method is called. Through the under collar seam. That's what you're doing. We're kind of on the under collar. side. Oh, nice, Martina. Let me know how it goes. Oh, there you go. Nancy has a recommendation for thread. Other Martina. There's two Martinas. Mama of 13 is named Martina as well. Well, that's kind of disappointing that I have this potential right here to match, and it doesn't. I can't now remember. I waffled between so many ideas for cutting this out because I like to think about, gosh, when you have it interfaced, it really makes such a nice edge. I can't like fold more. I like to think about what's going to be easier to sew when I'm matching plaids. So in general, I don't cut along a line of the plaid because then I feel like your cuff, you know, like when you have to turn under the cuff and edge stitch it down. It's nice if you're kind of in this like, you know, solid section and not trying to fold it along a stripe. It's like hems. I try not to line up my hem. It's easy to cut that way. It's like, ooh, I'll use this stripe to cut it. But then you're like, when you're sewing it, you're like, shoot, now it really looks off if I get, you know, if you cut along a yoke seam and say you cut it along this orange stripe, right? It'll look wiggly if you don't fold it perfectly on that orange stripe. So I just try and avoid that. So I don't remember what I did there because we talked a bit about it. Okay. So this is on the under collar, remember? I mean, technically, I guess you could leave it open on the neck side. And then when you go to top stitch it down, it'll look nicer on this side. So I guess this is a good spot where maybe sewing, finishing on the right side of the garment doesn't really benefit you as much as it could to finish it on this side. I mean, you know, if someone sees it on the inside of the garment hanging on the hanger, right? What are they doing in your closet, first of all? Judging your sewing. All little thread tails are coming back to bite me there. All right, so when I do the top stitch for the collar stand, I usually go all the way around it in one fell swoop. I always have this spiel about not starting and stopping right here at your collar stand neckline. This is one of the things I don't like about sewing it the other way, but I still start at the center back neck and go all the way around. And because if you have to back stitch right here, what happens is you have a bunch of thread right there. Some back stitches look nicer than others. And then if you have to take it out because something happens, and I have had to take out a lot of these because something didn't line up right, you're having to remove your threads right there at a spot that's a focal point. So I say just do it back here. Yes, if you have to fix this right here, you're having to take out all that. But at the same time, maybe you've gotten this far and you don't have to at all. And that'll look still nicer than back stitching right there. I sometimes have to do it still. Yeah, thinking ahead about it. I'm really frustrated by this camera today. Okay. Yeah, I've heard that, Chaz. I've heard that also in like Victorian England or earlier in needlepoint. The color is going to flip over. Are you going to see if it's going to match or not? Oh, the collar is going to flip over. Yeah, because of those stripes. I mean, yeah, kinda. Matches better there. Oh, so that's a smart tip, Positive. I like that. I like that, Hannah. Your grandma's right. All right, so we're gonna start, we'll start on the open edge. Usually I would start here because that's my open side, but we'll start up here. Anyone know why? I need probably to make myself a smaller pin cushion. I can't imagine sewing this pie at like 80%, but it has, I put magnets on the bottom of it. This is one of my patterns, and I sewed a magnet there so that it stays on my machine. But it's a little big, you know? All right, so this is open, this is not. This is already sewn, right? So you need to make sure that you're not gonna get a little like bubble right here, you know? We'll bring it down again. It's a jerk. It didn't used to do this. I have an idea. This idea might not work, actually. No, it didn't work. Didn't work at all. I used to get a better angle, and I'm just not anymore. Sorry. Oh well, I'm gonna leave it. So like right here, you can get a little bubble. So make sure you're kind of pushing this edge that you're top stitching down towards the needle so you don't get that little bubble. And now we're in the clear. You just need to make sure you're stitching on the edge, pull it all apart so that your seam is right on the edge, and just do it parallel. Of course, I'm like quarter stitch away from pivoting. And all of this is stitched down too. Didn't get that very even, did I? I was stitching a lot closer to the edge here than I was there. I didn't realize it. I like to pull this a little bit so because you want to make sure that those seams are right on top of each other right here. This is the only drawback, is you have to kind of go through the throat space here. I want to take those pins out so bad, but they're actually holding my work together still. Yeah, I will say the point right here looks like 100 times better than on the other way. Let's just make this my new method and I'll get better at it. All right, so now we're at this open edge again. Make this fold. I'm a little far over, so I think I might be stitching on the collar. Let's throw that one away. And we're at the beginning. Did I just run out of bobbin? Did you guys hear that? I know Terry's like, oh no. Ooh, I think I'm about to run out of bobbin. I made it. I just have this stay stitch to take out right here on the neck. No, I don't know why it's doing that. It's because like, so you see, here, I'll pull it down in the face cam. So I can lock the camera for this pivot. This like, there's a silver bar here that it's attached to that you cannot see. But this right here is a swivel and it's supposed to do that. I can't tighten that. Well, that's a little better. I don't know why it's doing it so bad lately. You heard it? I know, let's check. No, it's fine. Oh, I love that, Chaz. I love doing that, like, Yeah, I love doing that. So like when I'm doing pocket stitching or front fly stitching and I don't want to have a back stitch, I do that too. And what Chaz is saying is, you know, you can, when you stitch like this, you have your upper thread, right? Go to the back side, find that bobbin thread, give it a little tug, and then that little loop, put your awl or your seam ripper through there or a pin and pull. And now you've pulled this top thread to the back and you can tie it off. So the trick, especially with my machine because I have a cutter, is to pull along thread and then pull one on the bobbin too a little bit and then do it. And then that way you have enough to tie a knot with. And then you can tie this off and then you have it, it looks just seamless on the top. It looks really nice, especially if you're using really thick top stitch thread and you don't want this really like heavy back stitch. All right, okay. I don't know what's going on. Is it because I zoomed in too? Maybe that's it. All right, how do we do? I mean, that looks pretty nice, I would say. The collar's kind of stiff because it has the 2 layers of interfacing. It's a pretty conservative collar. By that I mean it doesn't have like a really flared point. There we go. Let's see if we can. Theoretically, you're supposed to overlap your collar. Like this point should be right here. It should go to the center of your placket. I'm wondering if I didn't turn this placket back enough. Maybe that's the root of my problem. As far as like getting it to the color to match up. I'm kind of curious about my plaids right now, so. I didn't put that in the right spot. Oh, okay, I see. Gotta match the neck seam. I mean, I think I did it. Let me unzoom it. You should dare to say that. I think I have a new camera that I didn't end up using. I could probably employ it. Oh, you got this, Carrie, I'm sure. No one ever buttons that top button, though. Yep. It is a very stand-up collar job. What do you guys think of that method of finishing it? Did I make it look easier? I do feel like, to me it felt easier, except for some of the little things. Like doing it out of order wasn't good. Pocket looks pretty invisible. Yeah, I know. That top button's kind of, you know, not so good. So we'll button it here. Of course I'd laugh. One of the people I game with he was an English major and he got his teaching credential. And so he's like one of the like smartest people I've gamed with, as far as like language goes, and he's really well read. And it's really funny because I say stupid stuff like that all the time and nobody reacts to it but him, and I love it. So sometimes I'm just like, it's like so delightful to be around. See, my husband's like that. He's very smart, you know, very clever with words, far cleverer than me too. Like sometimes I'm like, wait, can you explain that? You know, it's like whoosh, you know? So I like that he'll get subtle context, and he knows to look for it too because he knows I'm doing that, so it's fun. Yeah. Yeah, it looks good. Look at this plaid. I wish this didn't match right there, because it looks like I didn't do it right over here, when it would have been impossible to do. Okay. All right. So that was fun. All right. So tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm going to be attaching the sleeves and doing the column style or tower style, whatever you like to call it, sleeve placket. I call it a shirt sleeve placket, the one that has all the little folds in it, this piece here. And then it has the little point, you know, at the top, so your placket looks like a long house, right? Right, Carrie, I know. My husband is nice enough to explain things. I don't think he's always doing it for me laughing. It's more of his amusement, thankfully. So it's not dependent upon me laughing. Because he'll sometimes text me something that is really funny, and I don't get it for like 6 hours, and it'll just like hit me. I'm like, oh my God, how did I miss that? And then I'll text, I'm like, oh. And he's like, you just got that? You know, he doesn't say it that way, but yeah. So this is the one thing I'm not pleased about. Like, I don't have tucks, but you can see there's a little bit of gathering going on there, you know? So I'm going to check the pattern. This is what I think. I think that I didn't turn this placket quite enough. And even if it was just 1/4 of an inch off, that would be a big difference. And I think this fabric, especially on the fronts, relaxed a little bit. That's my thinking what happened there. Yeah, Carrie. You and my husband probably have some really good conversations. Looking good. All right. Well, so I'll see you guys tomorrow. And then Saturday, I am cutting and sewing. I'm cutting the Ideal bag, free pattern on my website. It's a pretty big bag, like big, a lot of pieces, but you don't have to do them all. It's customizable. I'm going to be customizing it to fit my needs. So I think it'll be fun. This fabric's really growing on me too. At first I was like, ooh, that orange is kind of bright. Now I'm really into it. I love the olive green. I think it's going to look really good on Michael too. Yeah, so what else did I want to tell you guys? Oh, I noticed, and I shared it in my stories. I have a couple things to talk about. I noticed that the Curvy Database folks are having a giveaway. I thought it was just a challenge, and you enter the challenge, and if you sew something by, I think, November 3rd and post it, as long as it's a pattern that has the ability to include a 60-inch hip, it's inclusive, you are entered to win. And she has a lot of prizes, and I think I finally reread it and I understood what she was saying. She doesn't have very many entries, so your likelihood of winning something is pretty high. She has like 43 prizes right now. And it's their 1-year anniversary coming up, and that's why they're doing it. So I entered the Auburn blazer. I thought I was just joining the challenge, but now I realize it was the, it's not a challenge, it's a giveaway as well. So if you guys want to do that, I know a lot of you have been sewing blazers and other things that, that patterns come in a 60-inch hip. Like the Mercer top would also be included, but except the fact that the top size only goes 59 inches, so it didn't. even though it comes in 2 size ranges and I didn't sew the 60-inch hip, doesn't matter as long as the pattern comes in it, you can enter that. The other thing was I did a poll in my stories on Sunday. I've been really inspired by a project that someone I know is working on, one of the patrons, that I'm not going to tell you about, but it really inspired, like something about what they're doing kind of made me start thinking about something, and it clicked for me what I've been trying to figure out how to do, and I think their project made me realize how I can do this. So I'm going to be doing pattern reviews, and so I did this poll, and if you answered it, thank you so much. I got about 200 responses, and so that was really awesome, and it was really great to hear all of your feedback. And the poll was, what would you want out of an honest pattern review? So that was pretty cool to see. So yeah, you just post it on Instagram. It's in my stories right now, Carrie. It's the Curvy Database Instagram account. So if you just check out their post. So the Curvy Database Project is the name of the Instagram account. So yeah, anyway. Yeah, just picture, you could do your culottes. I'm pretty sure those came in 60-inch hip, right? I'm not sure. So yeah, definitely check it out. Yeah, I don't know what the prizes are. Like I said, I told her, I'm like, oh, I don't even need to enter. I never enter things. So yeah, Libby, I'm gonna probably do a video soon because there was a lot of things people wanted. The one thing I saw very consistently is how people how frustrated they are with patterns that they've bought. And I think that that's a really great launching off point to talk about a few things that we shouldn't be expecting pattern companies to do these things, but we should be expecting them to do these things. And I think separating those things out, that was something made very clear for me. And I'm really thankful people answered the poll because it made me realize, like, oh yeah, like I don't think of it that way. I take this for granted. So that was really educational for me. So I really appreciate everyone who answered that. And if you missed it, it's no big deal. You're welcome to send me an email if you're like, I have something that's probably not been said. Send me an email and you can tell me what you would like to see. Because what I want to do is something, I don't want to just rip apart patterns, and I want to have a place where there's data, like neutral information. I'll critique things for sure if I've sewn it. I think that I would really like to see certain things, just information, like, you know, just like, let's look at if it's a PDF only pattern, does it come in layers? Is there a projector file? Is it in color, black and white? You know what I mean? Like that, like just like check, check, check. I just want, like, you know, really simple things. I think my aim with this would be if something like this could influence a little bit of standardization between patterns, I would really appreciate that. Right, Nancy? Exactly. Me too. Yeah. But, you know, like if someone's saying, well, every time I make something, the sleeves are too big, and they think that hello, Rebecca, welcome. And they're thinking that it's always the pattern company's fault, but it's not. Like, that's a completely different issue, right? So we all have our sizing woes, don't we? And that's one thing that we all have to kind of address. But there's certain things you can expect from a pattern so that you're like, okay, I know I'm going to have that sizing woe with that by knowing that information. Yeah, mock-ups are great, but you shouldn't always have to make a mock-up either. If you know certain things, like I wish there were certain finished measurements always included. And I don't want the measurements of the body that you're like, oh, if you're this size, this is the size that you make. And then in the finished measurements, I want the exact same list of measurements plus a few more. I really hate it when they're like, oh, here's the finished measurements, and it's only a length measurement. That doesn't tell me anything. It tells me something, but not what I'm looking for, usually. I'm like, I want to know the difference in knees. Like, and they could just state the ease. Like there's a few things, and if they just did it in a really concise format, like all on one page, that would be great. But yeah, so I think that really seeing everybody's, you know, woes, suggestions, frustrations is really great. Intended ease, right, Heidi? Hi, Heidi. Yeah, like, and I also think like what not to expect. Like they can, another good thing that I thought I saw a few times, which was really great because I do this on my pattern. I say, expect this to be, strengthen your skills with heavy duty sewing and making a 3-dimensional object. Like that's like almost word for word what I say on my project bag. So that they know, okay, this is heavy duty, you know, and these are the things I'm going to be doing in this project, right? And I hate that whole like beginning, intermediate, and advanced thing is really, it's really important to know that. But I hate how we're all kind of like, what's beginning and what's intermediate and what's advanced? And I'd like to come up with some metrics for that too. So does it have these things? Okay, we're in the beginning category. Oh, you're putting a collar on it? We're now in the intermediate. What's advanced? I feel like every pattern right now is listed as adventurous, beginner intermediate. Nothing is ever listed higher than that because I think they think it's going to scare people away. Yeah, right, Malin? Yeah. Yeah, I want a cross shoulder measurement, and I want the sleeve length to be measured from the center back neck. So, yeah, right? Yeah, Helen does that too. You know, the other thing I think about is how I feel like I'm always having these imaginary conversations. So I'm always trying to come up with every possible answer to what I think someone is going to challenge me with. And I wish people would just challenge me with it so that I can say, great, good, that's good to know. Like, that's what you're thinking about. And I think, like, if I were to hear a pattern company say something like, well, you know, we don't need to draft patterns the way Sarami sews. Sarami sews as if she's on a factory floor. And I do. I sew often a lot of the steps like I'm sitting on a factory floor. And that I'm not sitting on a factory floor, and I know that. It's just my way of sewing, and I don't think everybody needs to sew that way at all. But I do like that it pushes the envelope of, could I just sit here and not get up and sew? Because you wouldn't iron on a factory floor. You wouldn't use pins, right? That you take out. I do those things, but you know what I mean. So, but here's my thing: is like some of the pattern markings and some of the way patterns are designed in this home sewing style that I actually don't think is always the most helpful. And the way that patterns are marked in the garment industry, they're marked so that, you know, 15,000 of them are going to be made by 80 people on a production floor, right? And I think a indie pattern company would probably say, yeah, but that's not how our patterns are being sewn. And I would argue, no, it's worse. 15,000 of them are going to be made by 15,000 people. So you actually need it to be as clear as possible because they're only making one, maybe two, and there's more people. So you've got to accommodate so many styles of learning and interpretation of instructions. So some standardization, and not saying just, you know, sew that together. And, you know, like, or when they don't say, make sure you finish the seams, you know, so that's some of the things I think that we could work on together. I feel like I'm on the pattern company side and I'm on the sew side. I feel pretty neutral in it. I can be critical, but I'm pretty neutral. Like I'm for both sides. I don't think pattern companies would think that at all. And I had one person say, Pattern Review already does this. They do, but it's not the same, you know, so. And Pattern Review is a huge tool, same as Minerva, anytime someone writes something. Finish in the usual manner. Yeah. Exactly. You're like, I've never done this before. What's the usual manner? So, anyway. you have that to look forward to. I'm hugely inspired by this. It's actually going to start taking precedence over some of the other things I wanted to do. That's how inspired I am by it. Oh, and by the way, my binding is for sale. If you would like to buy binding, I have 12 prints that are now available on my website for you. They're by the roll, or you can get there's some packs left where you get 3 yards each of all 12 prints. And it's my website, so.live, if you didn't notice, that's right here. So yeah, Nancy, I think I don't think anything I can do is really going to make a big impact, but I'm kind of hoping it starts some sort of conversation, gets a ball rolling. I'm kind of, small potatoes. So yeah, I agree, Malin. I find them really clunky. And I also the reason I want to do this is because this is what has inspired me I'm just going to say one of the reasons I want to do this is because I really don't want sugar-coated pattern reviews. Most people sewing on YouTube or in a blog, they're going to be upbeat and say it nicely. I tend to moderate some of what I'm saying. I'm pretty honest with you guys. I'm never dishonest with you guys, right? But I will definitely kind of smooth things over. Like when I was sewing the Mercer the other day, and that underarm thing, I couldn't figure that out. That wasn't going to work the way the instructions was. That's a sponsored stream. What am I going to do? I'm not going to pick anybody apart. I'm not going to criticize anybody. Things happen, and the thing is, I may not be understanding it, so I understand that it could be my fault. Look what happened on the Auburn blazer at the back neck facing. We couldn't get it to go together. We, as a stream, printed out the pattern pieces. Still didn't work. Jeremy did not realize she was supposed to bind that edge. So I made a mistake there, and that's going to happen. But the thing is, this is happening with all 15,000 people sewing this, right? There's 10,000 of them get it right and 2,000 of them get it wrong, So I really like the idea of it being kind of a neutral, non-sugar-coated. I don't have anything to gain. I don't get compensated. I don't make, YouTube is not a moneymaker, folks. If you're thinking to get into YouTube and become a YouTuber, so anybody getting compensated in some way, they're not getting compensated that much. Maybe folks want to be the next sewing sensation and get discovered, so they're being nice too, and my hat's off to them. Go for it too. So white, the pedaling, if it's white, wait, what's that mean, Carrie? Oh, padding. Are you talking about the Paddington top? Or if they are, it's not by you. No. Yeah, YouTube. I mean, I tell you guys straight up, I make about $200 a month in ad revenue. So, yeah. So, and I want to be nice, but I think honesty people think being honest is being mean, and I completely disagree with that. I think being honest is being kind. Information is just information. And maybe more and more information makes someone go, oh, okay, I can see why people are thinking that. Because in my mind, this is what that means. And this is the other thing. The language people use isn't consistent. So seeing how she uses upper collar and under collar, you don't use that. You say top and under is the correct term. You still understand what she's saying here. This isn't a big deal. But in other places where things are sewn, they're saying there's upper, top, there's a third one. And there's also lower, under, bottom. So there is actually some thought, if you put your thought into that, why you say things a certain way. Because sometimes you're referring to, maybe you sew this stripe up here, and there's a middle stripe and a lower stripe and a bottom stripe, right? And then maybe it's really that it's like a sandwich. So you have your top collar, your inter collar, and your bottom collar. You know, there's other things. So yeah, Chaz, and I strongly believe, Chaz, and when I write my instructions, I usually say things like, I title the instruction, because that's the other thing I wish instructions had. I wish it had a title. So if I don't need to know how to do the collar, it just says, now you're going to sew the collar together. Okay, great. I sew the collar together. I don't need you to teach me how to do it in your way. It might confuse me. I know my way, right? And then I think also if you're doing something a little bit different and something that people don't come across very often, I think it's really good to say, you're going to want to do this, you know, here, sew this, and this is why you do it this way, right? So, hey, Beth Ann, you're going to need my help. Are you going to make some button-up shirts? I did a video Saturday on cutting plaid out. It's kind of lengthy, but it just kind of goes over all kinds of different things to think about with plaid. There's lots of little like hidden tips in there. They're not hidden, but you know, they kind of pop up when we're at a certain point. You can check that out for cutting them. I'm at the end of my stream today, and we sewed the plackets, pocket, collar stand, yokes, and then tomorrow, I keep saying Saturday, I'm sorry, I'm used to this Thursdays being part one. Tomorrow I'm going to be sewing the sleeves and the plackets and the side seams and the hem. I'm excited. So anyway, that's all I have to say about that. I'm hungry. I'm going to see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for coming. I'm very pleased with how this went. Thank you for challenging me on the other way to sew a collar. Look how stiff this puppy is, man. Whew. That thing is holding its shape. All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you. I have homemade chili, and Michael made the chili. He does real food. I don't do real food. I made cornmeal muffins with blueberries in them. I want to say they're vegan, but they're not. It's just from a vegetarian book. That's what it is. She has a lot of vegan alternatives. But it's not sweet at all. Like, it's a completely savory muffin. It's really good. It's going to be good with the chili. So, oh, cool, Nancy. That's awesome. I like the Love Notions patterns. There's a lot of information. It's a little too much, and it's a little too messy. But there's such good resources. And doesn't she have a lot of linked resources in there? So if you're like, I don't know how to do this, you just click the link and it takes you to a YouTube tutorial, which is really helpful for people. So yeah, this chili recipe he does in the Instant Pot, and it's really good. So, all right. Thanks, you guys. And thanks for the new subscribers today, and thanks for hanging out. I'll see you guys soon. And remember, the bias binding is up for sale. And yeah, that's all I got to say. Bye.